said Farajii, and I was like, sure, let's talk about it. Major movie, did major, I mean, crazy numbers over the weekend. It dropped on Friday. The numbers have shown that it's made over $110 million at the box office. It took $250 million to make. So they are still projecting that that this is going to be a film that's going to be able to pay back pay back on its production costs. But the big point about this film is the cultural significance of it. A black woman playing this character that was originally put out as a white woman. But more importantly, all the other elements. First and foremost, I don't know if you've seen the movie. I went to see the movie with my daughter. She loves mermaids. So I had to go see it.
No, I haven't seen it, and I probably won't see it.
You won't see it?
No, I probably won't see the movie, man. So here are a few things that I wanted to talk about. One, back in October, we talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and Dr. Greg Carr was on the panel with me, and Reese Colbert. And we talked about the racist backlash that Haley Bailey was receiving by a lot of white supremacists who didn't like the fact that they had an African-American woman cast. Okay. So we dealt with that aspect, number one, and so we have to understand that I'm not a fan of the movie. And one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of the movie, because for my understanding, the love interest of the Little Mermaid is a white boy, right? A white man, right? Am I correct? Yeah. See, now that's indicative of Disney movies. And this is what I sent you the video of my analysis of The Princess and the Frog. Did you watch that video?
I haven't watched that video just yet.
Okay. So
about The Princess and the Frog. And it's funny because they're actually talking about possibly putting that out as a live action film as well.
See, here's the problem with Disney. Disney does not have a problem depicting having African-American women as princesses. Okay, The Princess and the Frog, Princess Tiana, it was animated. This is the first African-American female princess. When I heard Disney was going to do this, Disney has a history of racism, a long history going back to the 30s, 40s, things like this, of racism. Okay, yeah, they make some good movies. But when I first heard that they were going to have an African-American princess, I said, uh-oh. I said, watch for the hook. Sure enough, with The Princess and the Frog, the hook was two hooks. One, the love interest, Prince Naveen, is not African-American. He's not of African descent. He's this Eurasian, this white-looking Eurasian, Arab-looking, whatever he is. And this is going to be her savior. Her adversary, the enemy in the movie, was the voodoo priest, the black man.
Now, the thing that we are urgent about is arts and entertainment. And this weekend showed that as The Little Mermaid came out, the major movie that was put out by Disney, where our little sister Halle Bailey serves as the main character. She played Ariel in the remake as the live action version of the story, The Little Mermaid. How that movie has created a firestorm of controversy, from everything from dealing with race issues to what one writer saying that this movie didn't have enough kink, K-I-N-K, kink in it to make it a fun and enjoyable experience. And we'll share with you a little bit more about that one. But The Little Mermaid has really started the conversation about what inspires women. And I think that's a part of the discussion I want to have at another time. But looking at the race issue of how race has played a huge role in Disney making this determination, and how it has generated millions of dollars at the box office. Brother Michael, you wanted to talk about this, brother. And I was a little surprised that you wanted to bring this up. When I saw you said, Farajii, can we talk about The Little Mermaid? And I was like, sure, let's talk about it. Major movie, did crazy numbers over the weekend. It dropped on Friday. The numbers have shown that it's made over $110 million at the box office. It took $250 million to make. So they are still projecting that that this is going to be a film that's going to be able to pay back on its production costs. But the big point about this film is the cultural significance of it. A black woman playing this character that was originally put out as a white woman. But more importantly, all the other elements. First and foremost, I don't know if you've seen the movie. I went to see the movie with my daughter. She loves mermaids. So I had to go see it.
No, I haven't seen it, and I probably won't see it.
You won't see it?
No, I probably won't see the movie, man. So here are a few things that I wanted to talk about. One, back in October, we talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and Dr. Greg Carr was on the panel with me, and Reese Colbert. And we talked about the racist backlash that Haley Bailey was receiving by a lot of white supremacists who didn't like the fact that they had an African-American woman cast. Okay. So we dealt with that aspect, number one, and so we have to understand that I'm not a fan of the movie. And one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of the movie, because for my understanding, the love interest of the Little Mermaid is a white boy, right? A white man, right? Am I correct? Yeah. See, now that's indicative of Disney movies. And this is what I sent you the video of my analysis of The Princess and the Frog. Did you watch that video?
I haven't watched that video just yet.
Okay. So
about The Princess and the Frog. And it's funny because they're actually talking about possibly putting that out as a live action film as well.
See, here's the problem with Disney. Disney does not have a problem depicting having African American women as princesses. Okay, The Princess and the Frog, Princess Tiana, it was animated. This is the first African American female princess. When I heard Disney was going to do this, Disney has a history of racism, a long history going back to the 30s, 40s, things like this, of racism. Okay, yeah, they make some good movies. But when I first heard that they were going to have an African American princess, I said, uh-oh. I said, watch for the hook. Sure enough, with The Princess and the Frog, the hook was two hooks. One, the love interest, Prince Naveen, is not African American. He's not of African descent. He's this Eurasian, this white looking Eurasian, Arab looking, whatever he is. And this is going to be her savior. Her adversary, the enemy in the movie, was the voodoo priest, the black man.
Right.
In The Princess and the Frog.
Right.
Now, very quickly, brother, the movie The Princess and the Frog takes place in New Orleans. Okay. New Orleans is part of Louisiana. Louisiana becomes a part of the Union, part of the United States, because of what's known as the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. Louisiana Purchase, the U.S. gets 820,000 square miles of land for about 3 cents an acre from France for $15 million. Napoleon Bonaparte in France. Why is France trying to sell all the land that they have here in what's known as the United States? Because they were partly, one of the reasons why is because they were fighting a war against these Africans in their colony called Saint Dominique. The Africans call it Haiti or Haiti. And the French were getting their asses kicked by these Haitians. And they were almost going bankrupt. So they had to raise money. Now, when you study the Haitian Revolution, which starts in 1791, one of the things that these Africans did to defeat not just the French, but also the Spanish and the British, who were allies of the French, they reclaimed their African spirituality. They cast aside their white God, as one of my teachers, Professor Kabahai Watakamene, says in the documentary 1804. They reclaimed African spirituality. What was the African spirituality they reclaimed? Vodou. What do white people call Vodou? Voodoo. Oh, so you mean in the movie The Princess and the Frog that takes place in New Orleans, you mean the adversary, the black man, was made evil and he's a voodoo priest, which attacks African spirituality and demonizes the very thing that the Haitians used to overthrow their white oppressors? Is this what you're saying that's in the movie? Okay.
Well, see that, and see, look, I gotta stop you right there, bro, Mike. Just for the time, I want to make sure we get our next pause in. But that's part of the controversy that people have, and I'm pushing back on this a little bit. And you tell me, folks, as we take our next pause. Do we really expect Disney to be historically accurate?
I'm not talking about historically accurate,
and I'm not saying they should.
No, I'm not saying historically accurate.
I'm wondering. No. You made this point at the beginning of your remarks here. Disney is not just a movie making company. Disney is a cultural phenomenon. They shape the culture on how we see each other and how we see the world.
You're missing my point. I'm not talking about historical accuracy because these are fictitious movies. Disney does not have a problem showing a black female princess. They have a problem showing a black man as a prince or a king because they have a problem showing a black man in power, controlling natural resources, ruling over a nation. This is why they would show a black princess ending up with a white man or something that looks like a white man. This is programming of black people in power.
I hear you. Look, we got to take another pause when we come forward. More conversation. I want to hear from you, crew. I know some of you have gone back into your childhood. Corinna, I see you. You went back to 5-year-old Corinna because of The Little Mermaid. And get your take on the movie that is shaping the culture of Little Mermaid. Folks, join us in the conversation and stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We got a few moments left, and I'm chatting it up with my brother Michael Imhotep from the African History Network, and you can check him out at africanhistorynetwork.com. But we've been talking about Little Mermaid. Let's bring Brother Michael back into it. I want to open up this conversation very quickly. Brother Michael, you brought up talking about the Princess and the Frog, talking about the actual history of our people as it relates to everything from quote unquote voodoo magic to our the relationship of black women, in that case, Princess Tiana, and the lack of black males in power, which I think is a valid thing in this movie
here. The Princess, we'll see the same thing in The Little Mermaid. This is not an attack on Halle Bailey. I want people to understand this. This is understanding white supremacy and racism and Disney that doesn't want to show a African prince, a black prince, African American prince, things like this, but they will show an African American princess. Or they would show The Little Mermaid, but she ends up with a white man. See, she don't end up with an African-American man. That's problematic right there, especially when we take our daughters
to crazy because the prince mother in the movie is a black Caribbean woman.
Yeah. But obviously they don't have a problem depicting the women like that. They got a problem depicting the man. Because then it's difficult to be what you don't see. So if little black boys see images of a black character like that, ruling nations, controlling natural resources, controlling economies, then they think, oh, I can do that also. Oh, I can.
All right, so here's my take on it. Here's my take on it. And maybe I can hold this off. I want to hold this. I'm gonna speak. Let me speak to the man.
You can bring me back for another conversation.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you can bring me back. Man.
I gotta bring you back. All right, look. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and I got a couple of minutes left. But my thinking is, this idea of black boys being able to see themselves. This is 2023, y'all. 2023. You mean to tell me that black boys aren't inspired in 2023?
I ain't saying they weren't inspired.
No, I'm not saying you. That's what you said. No. I'm just using that point that you're saying that black boys can see that black men have the ability to rule on all of those things.
We're talking about Disney movies. What Disney movie has a black male lead like that?
No, you're right.
That's what I'm saying. So how is it you got two Disney movies? How is it you got two Disney movies with black female leads like this, and they both end up with non-black men? Then when we go look and when Brandy plays Cinderella, okay, the prince was Latino. This is not against Latinos. It's like, wait a second. Disney has a problem with African American men.
Disney has a problem with race. I think we can kind of go on record to say that. But the thing is that a problem that we should have as a people and as a culture? Is that our problem?
Well, no, we need to understand it because
we don't see black men in positions of power in the Disney film. Does that take away the innate power of who we are? No. We need to understand that we're attacked, and one of the main ways that we're attacked is through media. So when you I get that part.
So when you keep showing these images, and then the main black female character ends up with a white man or a non-African American man, that's a problem there. And this is fair. Here's the thing though, Brother Michael. Here's the thing. You and I, and I'm saying specifically you and I, those of us who are at our age range,
We didn't see black people in none of these cartoons.
I
We
agree.
didn't see it growing up. I didn't see it. I grew up in
Yeah.
the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. I didn't see it.
Right.
But guess what? It's crazy. It's really interesting that as much as I didn't see black folks in the cartoons that I watched, I still came into an understanding of black consciousness, right? Understanding of black thought. And it's interesting, that was not shaped because of the cartoons. And I know it's become my personal background. I get that part. But I'm saying even brothers that may not have taken the same path or grew up in the same faith that I grew up in, they did not come. You know what? The big cultural influence was hip hop. It wasn't Disney. It wasn't what we seen on TV. It was
what happened to hip hop.
It was hip hop
was co-opted by corporations that put out negative corporate controlled hip hop. Absolutely. Right. I remember I was watching it when it happened.
Right. We all seen it. We all seen it. Look, I gotta bring you on, man. I gotta bring you back. I gotta bring you back. All right, real quick, Brother Michael, how can people touch base with you, get all the information?
Visit my website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Sunday, June 4th. We have another class, Black Resistance Movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. Visit my website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, Sunday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can register there. We're updating the website. And then on Sunday, June 10th, I will be doing a free lecture, Saturday, June 10th, a free lecture, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, dealing with the evidence that the ancient Egyptians were Black Africans. Evidence that the ancient Egyptians were Black Africans. This is at our online school, but visit our website, register there. That's Saturday, June 10th. You can register for my other classes also, and email me through the website. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization for Juneteenth, the information that I have on Juneteenth will blow you away.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So, I got to bring you back. I'll bring you back, Brother Michael. We're going to talk more about this. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a conversation with my sister talking about, do we overemphasize representation? Do we overemphasize being inspired? That's one of the conversations I do want to have tomorrow. Folks, Brother Michael Imhotep, my brother, definitely check him out on his website and listen to his show. He's rocking in Detroit on Sunday nights as well. So, Brother Michael, thank you so much for being with us.
All right, Roger. Thanks for having me. All right, we're coming up here on the break. When we come back, I want you to hear this conversation that we had dealing with The Little Mermaid. We know that The Little Mermaid was the #1 movie in America last weekend, Memorial Day weekend. It's the #2 movie this weekend. #1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which did about $120 million this weekend, according to boxofficemojo.com. And The Little Mermaid came in #2 with $40 million for this weekend. Okay. We had this discussion dealing with Halle Bailey, and, we've talked about this here on the show before. Halle Bailey says seeing a Black version of Ariel would have changed my whole outlook on life. This was a article from September 2022 from NBCnews.com. But also we discussed this on Farajii Muhammad's show, The Culture, when I was on this past Tuesday. Okay, we'll have that discussion, and we'll ask the question. Does Disney have a problem with Black men being in positions of power, ruling over nations, being a king or being a prince married to a Black woman? If Disney does not have a problem with this, then why does Ariel end up with a white man in the movie? And why does Princess Tiana in the Princess and the Frog end up with Prince Naveen, who's Arab or Eurasian or white, whatever he is? He's not of African descent. And why is the only Black male significant character in The Princess and the Frog evil and a voodoo priest and the adversary of Princess Tiana, as opposed to being the protector of Princess Tiana? We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep, 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. there was one article from theguardian.com called "The Little Mermaid, Halle Bailey as a Child Stop the Music." Okay, theguardian.com had an article, "The Little Mermaid's Halle Bailey as a child seeing a black Ariel would have changed my life. As a child seeing a black Ariel would have changed my life." So we have that article, and it says, let's see, that's from Saturday, May 20th, 2023. So we have that article. Then also there's one from NBC News from September 2022. And the name of that article is Halle Bailey says, "Seeing a black version of Ariel would have changed my whole outlook on life." The singer takes on the role of the Little Mermaid in Disney's latest live action remake. Okay, so she's been getting a lot of good reviews for her performance in the Little Mermaid. I haven't seen the movie yet. Really don't plan on seeing the movie. I may, if it comes on cable some point, I may watch it. I'm not going to the theater to see it. But we discussed this on, we're going to clip 3, Aubrey, because I emailed you clip 3. We're going to clip 3, and we discussed the Little Mermaid, but also we got into a discussion dealing with the Princess and the Frog. The Princess and the Frog. This was on Farajii Muhammad's show, The Culture. Let's go to clip 3, please. Okay, we'll get that going. So if we look at this piece here from theguardian.com.
Little brown girls were excited about Halle Bailey as the Little Mermaid.
It's my daughter's reactions to the Little Mermaid trailer. Look.
With the positive news, there is the negative. Here are some of the folks that are upset that Disney cast a black woman to play a mermaid. We have Kaiser, who says the Little Mermaid is a traditional Danish tale, 100% European culture. Stop stealing others, like Pinocchio Italian, Lord of the Rings British, even Game of Thrones is based on European. In fact, 98% of Disney classics are stolen European stories. This is so stupid. Anyway, so Matt Walsh says it isn't scientific to have a black mermaid.
All right, Max Winter says, a black actor playing the Little Mermaid really is a case of white erasure. All forms of art, including fairy tales, are meant to be reflections of the author's experiences and observations. Hans Christian Andersen probably based the Little Mermaid based on experiences he went through in his home country of Denmark. So it makes sense that most of his characters would be white, since that's the world and the people he was surrounded by. Yeah, I'm given the way that we deal with these sorts of issues, I'm sympathetic to that. Now, I would be fine, like we talked about yesterday. We don't have to rehash the entire thing. But if we all agreed that race in films and TV shows, especially fictional stories, don't matter, and we're going to take a kind of colorblind casting approach, and it doesn't matter as long as the actor is good. If we could all agree on that, then I'd be on board. And as I said, that's basically what it was for many years, what it was back in the 90s. But what I cannot abide by is the double standard thing where we say, well, the casting in casting matters only for certain races and not for others. No, we're not doing that. Also, by the way, with The Little Mermaid, can we also just mention that just from a scientific perspective, okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have someone with darker skin who lives deep in the ocean. I mean, if anything, not only should the Little Mermaid be pale, she should actually be translucent. If you look at deep sea creatures, they're like translucent. They have no kind of pigmentation whatsoever. And they're just like these horrifying, they look like skeletons floating around in the ocean. That's what the Little Mermaid should look like. She should be totally pale and skeletal, where you can see her skull through her face. And that would actually be a version of Little Mermaid that I would watch.
That's embarrassing.
Freak. I bet it is, you freak.
I mean, look.
Girl in the bottom of the ocean, I bet he would watch that.
Well, I mean, if we're being scientific, didn't y'all come out the Caucasus Mountain? Or no, y'all ain't from the ocean too, last I checked. Okay.
Look, but the Danes were still trying to figure out how to cook food when Yemaya and Oshun were coming out the ocean and the river. So let's be clear. You don't know, and I like what Mike Harriet said. He said mermaids are by definition biracial. But let's be clear. We ain't got no dog in this fight. Y'all remember Blazing Saddles when Cleavon Little showed up in town and it was like, the sheriff is near, the sheriff is near. Then he got close and they saw he was black. The sheriff isn't. When she came up out there water, I'm like, y'all should just make this a satire. Because I ain't got a... Disney is trying to make all the money in the world. They got a Muslim Miss Marvel from the comic books from Pakistan. They're gonna make Namor the Submariner Latinx when everybody who reads the comics knows he is white as the sheet. Shang-Chi is Chinese. His Shuri may be the Black Panther, may not be the Black Panther. And they're gonna put this Israeli girl in the new Captain America and is setting off bells over there with the Palestinians. Disney trying to make that cash. The reason that girl is black is because they see the demographic, and the most important words to be heard is when these children said, "I can't wait to go."
Oh yeah,
that's right. That's all Disney care about. So the mermaid is here.
I get the anti-capitalism aspect of it, but as a mother of an 18-month-old, almost 18-month-old, I have to tell you, when there's this little show on Disney called Eureka. And it's a brown girl in prehistoric times, and she has purple kind of, hair. And it's really funky. And Ava just goes apeshit every time it comes on. I mean, she's like looking at me, and she's like, and she starts dancing and swinging around. And I mean, it brings so much joy to her.
It doesn't scare you, Reese?
Does it scare
I used to have my godson in the back seat, and every time Barney come on, he go into a trance. I don't let no kids watch anything that these corporate people program, because it's like, wait a minute, how the hell you're a child? I don't trust that.
Well, listen, there's probably as much crack in Disney stuff as Beyonce has in her Renaissance album, so we're all in the same boat of being transfixed with things.
No question.
So, I mean, for me, part of the fun of it is starting to be how just completely unhinged these people are about it. Like, I didn't have interest in the Game of Thrones prequel, even though I watched Game of Thrones. But now I'm like, well, let me check it out, because this black guy is pissing them off, or the Lord of the Rings thing they have going on. They're mad about the black people. Like, these are not real characters. Y'all already don't see black people as human anyway, so it should be less of a stretch to see black people play a half mermaid, half whatever.
Well, yeah, with the Lord of the Rings and these other fictitious science fiction things like this. First of all, they act like they never heard of the African Moors that went all throughout Europe, intermixed into the European population and changed the complexion of many Europeans. Number one. Number two, I remember back in 2015 on the History Channel, they had a series called Barbarians Rising. And it dealt with like 700 years of invasions of the Roman Empire. And the first episode dealt with Hannibal Barca, Hannibal of Carthage, and the Carthaginians and the Punic Wars. And they portrayed Hannibal as an African, which he was. The Carthaginians, descendants of the Phoenicians. And some white people lost their minds. And it wasn't a brother like you had to look there and look at him for 5 minutes and listen to the tonality of his voice to determine if he was African descent. No, Nicholas Pinnock, you can look at that brother. That's a brother right there with a thick black beard. Okay, so they were correct. A lot of white people lost their minds. You know, this ties into white fear. This ties into Roland's book.
Yeah.
They're seeing these demographic changes here in the country, and not all white people, but these people that voted for Trump. They see these demographic changes in the country, and they can't handle it. And then they go to their escape. They go to their escape, which is science fiction. They go to their escape, which is a Disney movie, and then Negroes in the Disney movie. They're gonna have an Andy Griffith marathon because there's no black people in Mayberry. They keep trying to go to their escapes, right? And we keep popping up. So, and then you look at the YouTube, the trailer on YouTube has 1.5 million dislikes, things like this. So a lot of these people have just totally lost their minds. You know, they just totally lost their minds. So
look at I'm sorry, look at it though. They're gonna make that money up in the Spanish market. Disney is global. This movie, these hillbillies in the United States ain't gonna stop this train. They're gonna make that money up in Latin America.
Oh yeah, they're gonna make it. African Americans go see it. And I understand. My daughter's 5 years old. You know, and I watched the whole thing of the little girl's reaction to it. I'm glad I saw it before here because it brought tears to my eyes. Here, my daughter's 5 years old, right? My daughter loves Paw Patrol. She likes Sesame Street. She likes Doc McStuffins, things like this. So we need to flip this and like do lectures dealing with like the origins of the mermaids and where all this stuff comes from, things like this as well. But this is you know, just the reaction from many Europeans is just you know, you don't have anything better to do than this.
No.
The attack Haley Bailey, you don't have anything better to do than this, you know. So,
and I have to say, Haley Bailey, I met her at the VP's residence, and for Juneteenth, and she's she's like a mermaid in person. Like, she's just so lovely and sweet, and she has this just really divine voice and this great energy. So I love that for her. I love that for little black girls and everybody. And, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I don't let my kid watch like the super white cartoons like Coco Melon. I'm like, everybody got green eyes, blue eyes, everybody's super white. I'm like, where are the black cartoons? So she watches, you know, Motown Magic. I'll let her watch the animals. So she does Word Party, other kind of stuff. But I'm happy that there are a lot of shows for her to watch. Don't judge me, or you can, I don't care. But I know a lot of people don't like their kids watching TV.
But Hollywood, because I mean, somebody got to tell our stories that we have. I mean, Disney is not for us. Disney out there trying to make money.
No,
so I mean,
I understand.
Thank God for the African film market, because at some point, when we get our act together, the American Negro gonna be sitting somewhere with our $5 in our hand, talking about. Anyway,
well, that's true.
African market, things like that. But what I think also it's important for us to do, and you may want to weigh in this, Greg, if we have time. These white supremacists are largely attacking this African American woman. Haley Bailey.
No question.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't want that to be lost in this whole Disney movie. Okay, because she talked about, I was reading an article from Screen Rant where she talked about her grandparents encouraging her. I think it was her grandparents encouraging her in dealing with these white supremacists and these attacks on social media, things like that. So that's a layer that I don't want to be lost in the white capitalism, the corporations, and you know, things like this.
I don't know what to tell you.
Dr. Carr is like, hey, that's what you signed up for.
I don't know what to. At some point, we're going to have to make some decisions, or some decisions are going to be made for us. So this diversity, equity, inclusion approach to liberation, of course, is a complete and utter dead end. So yes, she should be defended. We have to deal with that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But let's be very clear. As you said, Reese, if you have power, use it. So we shouldn't be the ones defending her. Disney needs to have all the smoke for every white supremacist that they have contributed to their political campaign.
Yeah.
That they have emboldened. In other words, this is not our fight. This is Disney fight. Because Disney getting ready to pimp the black community for another $2 billion, like they did Black Panther. So when these white boys come for her, it don't need to be us. Yeah, we should say, but it need to be Disney. And Disney's not going to do that. Why? Because Disney don't give a damn about her either. This is all, you know what I'm saying? I mean, so I don't know. I don't have an answer other than you got to have your own stuff. We make our own documentary, and we've done this.
Right.
We've done this.
Right.
But
That's
I mean,
true.
Going back to Oscar Michaud,
But-
going back in the early 1900s.
But
Yep.
at the same time,
We had race movies when we had race movies.
well, we got
Go ahead.
Gracie's Corner on YouTube. We got our own
Gracie's
stuff.
Corner.
But guess what?
Uh-oh. Disney.
When it comes to a kid and cartoons,
Exactly.
hey, I'm Team Disney on that one. I know, Dr. Carr, you can drag me, but I am Team Disney. Dr. Nichols, you're shaking your head. Go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, let me get a word in. I have a 3-year-old myself, and I understand my 3-year-old loves Peppa Pig. So she's sitting around here walking around talking like a British person. So I will say this. I think it's important, and this was kind of stated, but I think it's important for us to make cartoons for our kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You better believe
Right.
Matt Walsh, who you just showed, who I think was trying to be funny with that whole translucent thing, but he's not funny.
No.
But at any rate, Matt Walsh works for the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire
White
wants to
supremacists.
get out of political content and get into cultural stuff. They want to make movies. They want to make cartoons because they realize that some black kid, probably too, is going to be looking and see a cartoon that engages them, but is secretly giving them political messages. It hurt my heart. One of the things that hurt my heart so much about, I don't even like saying his name, but a guy from Philadelphia, who, he made Fat Albert. And that was so important for kids my age. That was so important for us to see a bunch of black kids who lived in urban communities and how great that was. And then, conversely, I remember as a kid when I was young, you saw He-Man. And this is what tripped me out. My boy pointed this out to me. Here you have this white, blonde-haired, muscular guy, and he's the master of the universe. I was like, hide it from us. You know what I mean? And then, of course, G.I. Joe was trying to get us all to join the military. So, again, they're sending our children messages through this kind of stuff. And it's cool when you have a Doc McStuffins. And it's, The Little Mermaid, I think some of that story, just like Beauty and the Beast, I wouldn't let my daughter see it because I think it, tells them it's okay, deal with somebody's abuse.
Talk about it.
I wouldn't let them see it. I think it sends the wrong message to little girls. That you just be patient with somebody while they abuse you. I think it's important for us to make the kinds of stories we want to see instead of advocating and saying, hey, big capitalist white company, please please show me, please take the same recycled story that we've seen 100 million times and do it over again, rather than when we've got so many great black children's authors who could, their stories could be made into cartoons. And you can't even tell me that you need a big corporation. My kids used to watch this guy named Blippi. I don't know if you've ever seen him.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Absolutely.
And he's a random dude who was going nowhere with his life, and he just put on a colored hat and started playing with toys outside his apartment in the dirt and filmed it. And now he makes $20 million a year making children's content. He doesn't even like kids. He said it in an interview. He's like, I don't even like kids.
Wow.
But he has been able to monetize this, and kids can't take their eyes off of him. And now he's got a cartoon, he's got his live action stuff. And I think we can do the same things. Just like the stuff Roland is doing. I'll give props to Roland for a second. The stuff Roland's doing by trying to, I read he was promoting HBCU sports and all of that, going into sports content. I want him to hire me because I have the best sports commentary in the world. I'm always right. But I think that we need to expand into children's material because guess what? That's when they're trying to get our kids when they're young and give them subtle messages, about what they want from us.
Yes, right. Turn Mami Wata loose. Let them Negroes from the Caribbean and West Africa. Ain't no mermaids in the African women been in the water since the beginning of water. And that's a whole different story. That whole weak woman, princess, all that's how you end up with Queen Elizabeth dead, and the Star of Africa in her scepter, the largest diamond in the world. In other words, that whole women are weak. The whole cultural model is anti-human. It's not even good for white people. So you're right. I agree with you, Doc. I don't know about letting any children look at this patriarchal stuff. The Little Mermaid. And
just very quickly, when you look at the origin of a lot of these stories we tell our children, Cinderella, Snow White, King Midas, Rumpelstiltskin, things like this, they originate in England. Okay, so they orientate our children to kings and queens and Europeans being in power, Europeans being in control.
And to murder. Humpty Dumpty and Humpty Dumpty is about a plot against the king. Rockabye Baby is about killing the next heir. In the treetop, the baby, down will come cradle baby and all. In other words, these people talking about murder, and it's all in their children's stories.
And of course,
children's stories had a violent nature to them, and they were toned down. They were brought here, and then they were toned down and fed to the children, but we feed it to our children.
You know, I needed another mom on this panel with me because I'm outnumbered here. I'm the only one.
No, we're not beating up on you.
No. I'm just saying. Listen, I guess I'm the unserious one because I can't wait for this, and I love Hallie. But let me close it out with this tweet, which I thought was hilarious. It says, so after all the Africans y'all threw in the ocean, y'all surprised a mermaid is black?
Lord, have mercy.
Listen.
Incredible.
Come on.
That one.
Come on. We got to keep the same energy. Y'all want us? What we doing? What we doing? But
that was from September 16, 2022, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Lastly, before we get out of here, check out this article. I've talked about it before. This deals with Mami Wata. Mami Wata deals with the origin of the mermaids. This is an article from face-to-faceafrica.com, face-to-faceafrica.com. Mami Wata, the most celebrated mermaid-like deity from Africa who crossed over to the West. This is from July 20th, 2018 by Elizabeth Ofasua Johnson. Here's a depiction of Mami Wata. This is who Dr. Greg Carr was talking about. This is what I was talking about in that segment when I was talking about doing lectures on the origins of the mermaid. I'm talking about Mami Wata. Despite being considered as an adaptation of the Western mermaid, Mami Wata is a deity that has existed in Africa. A deity that has existed in Africa for as long as African history and culture can recollect. The half-fish, half-human female water spirit is highly respected, feared, and worshipped, presenting a balance between dark, divine, mysterious, and angelic existence. The deity is believed to be a woman with a half-human and half-fish appearance, with the ability to transform wholly into any form of her choice. The deity could also take up the form of a half-human, half-snake, Her upper body is that of a woman, while her lower body is a fish with a tail. Mami Wata, W-A-T-A, is often presented with long, healthy hair, enviable beauty, and a dark yet appealing mysteriousness. Her human features appear similar to that of the women in the areas in which she is. Here's another depiction of Mami Wata, and she has locks also. Now, Mami Wata traces back to the earliest of African societies as recorded by the griots and keepers of history. The Dogon's creation myth, the Dogon who are in Mali and Burkina Faso, D-O-G-O-N, the Dogon's creation myth tells the stories of Mami Wata and traces records of its existence to more than 4,000 years ago. Mesopotamian myths also tell of the great water goddess in their story of creation known as Mami Aruru, Aruru, to be the creator of life. The name is traced to the early languages of many modern African societies today. The first root of its name is considered to be from Ethiopian and Egyptian Coptic societies. In the Ethiopian Coptic language, the word mama, M-A-M-A, was used as a description of truth and wisdom, and the term Uatur, U-A-T-U-R, meant ocean water. Another definition of the name traces to the early Sudanese society, where the word Wata, W-A-T-A, referred to a woman. The name is often linked to a single entity, but represents the strongest and most significant of all water spirits that exist. Mami Wata was developed from the African culture that believed in the existence and worship of mystical creatures. Mami Wata is the bigger goddess with smaller followers, some of which were also men and had the same appearance as their goddess. Stories are told of her followers coming to shore every now and then to deceive seamen and capture them to be taken in the water kingdom. The captives were a source of entertainment until they were offered as sacrifices to Mami Wata. In West Africa and some parts of Eastern Africa, the deity is called Mami Wata or Mami Wata, M-A-A-M-E. Modern African societies refer to her as Mami Wata. In some parts of Eastern Africa, among the Swahili or Kiswahili speaking groups, she is called Mamba Munti, M-U-N-T-I. The African deity has managed to find homes in many other societies in the Western world. In the Caribbean and parts of Southern America, the deity is highly respected and feared, with many stories around her identity. Many cultures till date worship the deity and train high priestesses who serve as a link between the people and their deity. Okay, so read the rest of this article here from face-to-faceafrica.com. Mami Wata, the most celebrated mermaid-like deity from Africa who crossed over to the West. All right, we have to get out of here. You can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Register for my online classes there as well. All this helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, I-M-H-O-T-E-P. And right on the homepage of our website, we have our social media platforms, so you can follow us there. Okay. And if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com, or email me through the website. Juneteenth is coming up. People are asking me to speak at different places for Juneteenth. So email me there as well. Remember, right now is correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. To you. All right. So the Princess and the Frog. I want to talk about this for a quick minute, and then we'll get back to Cleopatra. But this is all connected. This deals with the power of imagery, right? And in my lecture series dealing with the deliberate destruction of the African American family, I talk about the Princess and the Frog. So, and I'm going to pull up a picture here as well as of this, because I can't remember which where the presentation is on PowerPoint. I have so many presentations that I've done, and I don't even remember which laptop I had back at that time when I did this. But many people have seen the movie The Princess and the Frog, which is from Walt Disney. Okay, now the movie takes place in New Orleans. Okay, during the jazz era. Okay, New Orleans, 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that, and you have Tiana, who's an African American woman, okay, and she. Let me see. Hold on. You have Tiana, who's an African American woman, and in the movie, at the beginning of the movie, her father dies. Now, the voice of her father is from Terrence Howard, okay. From Terrence Howard, actor Terrence Howard. So she wants to own some type of nightclub or something like that. She can't find any other African American man to help her with her dreams. Okay, help her fulfill her dreams. She is going to end up falling in love with this Eurasian looking prince named Prince Naveen. Okay. And the only other male figure of African descent is the voodoo priest. Okay. The voodoo priest. And the voodoo priest is evil. Okay. So pay attention to this. Instead of the African man, the voodoo priest, instead of him being a protector of Princess Tiana, he's her adversary and he's evil. Her savior is Prince Naveen, who is this Arab Eurasian looking guy. But it gets even deeper than this, because the movie takes place, the cartoon takes place in New Orleans. New Orleans is in Louisiana. Louisiana becomes part of the United States through what's known as the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. In the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, the U.S. gets 828,000 square miles of land for about 3 cents an acre from where? From France. From France. This is Napoleon Bonaparte, who just 5 years later, 5 years prior to 1803, in 1798, Napoleon conquers Egypt. What's going on in the world at this time in 1803? What's going on in the world at this time in 1798? France is fighting against a group of Africans in a colony called Saint Dominique, who the Africans are going to call Haiti and later Haiti. Saint Dominique is on the island of La Isla Española, which is what Christopher Columbus called the island when he conquered it in 1492. And the western third of the island was first the colony of Santo Domingo under the Spanish. Then in 1697, the French take over the western third. They take over that western third of the island from the Spanish, and they call it Saint Dominique. When you study the Haitian Revolution, which begins in 1791, the Haitians reclaimed African spirituality and cast aside their white God, as one of my teachers, Professor Mami Wata talks about in the documentary 1804 from director Tariq Nasheed. They cast aside their white God. They reclaimed African spirituality. What was the African spirituality that these Africans reclaimed that to help them defeat the French? And they didn't just beat the French, they beat the Spanish and the British, because the Spanish and the British were allies of the French. They reclaimed Vodun, who Europeans derisively call voodoo, and we see the African man, the only other African-American male character in the movie The Princess and the Frog. He's the voodoo priest, so he's automatically evil. So what they are doing is also attacking the African spirituality, which the Haitians reclaimed to help them defeat these European colonizers. This is in the movie The Princess and the Frog. Whatever you do, don't let your children watch this movie. Don't let your children watch this movie, especially if they're of African descent. So then she finds her savior in this white-looking, Eurasian, Arab-looking prince, Prince Naveen. And they go off and they turn into frogs. They live happily ever after. She doesn't live happily ever after with an African-American man that looks like her father, who died early in the movie. He was an older man. Yeah, he died early in the movie. He could not protect her. Now, I'm not saying Prince Naveen was a bad guy. I'm not saying that. Okay? I'm not saying he was a bad guy, but he wasn't a black guy. That's what I'm saying. So we have to understand the programming behind a lot of these movies. And when we look at Brandy playing Cinderella, and she ends up with a non-African prince or non-African king, not an attack on Brandy, but it's like you have to go through and say, well, wait a second. You keep having these African princesses and black princesses, Walt Disney, but you don't have a black prince. You don't have a black king. Is Disney afraid of showing African men in positions of power, ruling over nations, controlling natural resources, having wealth? You listen to the African History Network show. When we come back, we're going to go back to Queen Cleopatra VII. Talk some more about the series from Jada Pinkett Smith. And then I'm going to let you hear my discussion with Tony Browder on the subject today as well. He's the author of Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. If you like this type of information that we provide at the African History Network, you can support us, $the AHN show through Cash App, $the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, finance the Sunday night show, the African History Network show, that I broadcast on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. I've been broadcasting the African History Network show for 13 years, 7 years on 9:10 a.m. WFDF. So we're on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here's our PayPal Cash App information right here on the homepage of our website. So if you want to support us, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, whatever it is, it definitely helps. On Saturdays, I teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 12-week online history course. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. So you can register for the class right now. As soon as you register, there's you'll be able to join us for the day's class, and you can go back and watch the previous classes also. Okay, so we deal with history, thousands of years of history, look at what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place, and also we look at, we go through and analyze the transatlantic slave trade. We look at the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors as well. Okay. So in this class, Saturday, April 29th, then on, the class is on sale, $60, regularly $130. On Sundays, I teach, Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. We go through and look at history chronologically. This class will be on Saturday, April 30th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. We have a bundle pack. You can register for both of these classes for only $100. You can use this information with the children as well. I would say the information is PG-13. So it's not overly graphic. We won't do a lot of cursing or anything like that. It's not crazy like that. Okay. So you can register for the class, and there'll be 5 of my lectures in the video library in digital format. So you get a bonus of 5 of my lectures also. Now, It took me, I've been teaching this class on and off for 7 years. And I started teaching it back in 2017. I've studied history 31 years. You see me on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You see me on Farajii Muhammad Show, The Culture. Many of you all watch the African History Network show and been following us for years, even when I was on Blog Talk Radio. So with this class, this evolved out of a lecture that I did in January 2014 called Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And that was about 7 years of research. That it was a 4.5-hour lecture. But we can't start studying our history in slavery, even with transatlantic slave trade, which is important to study. We can't start in 1619 or in the 1440s when the Portuguese get involved. In 1441 with Anton Gonzalez. We have to understand the history chronologically and deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who enter into the Iberian Peninsula today known as Spain and Portugal in 711 AD. Now, this course not only deals with the transatlantic slave trade, but it also deals with the thousands of years of history that leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. August 20th, 2019 marked the 400th year anniversary of the 20 and odd Africans who came into Point Comfort in Virginia on August 20th, 1619 on the White Lion pirate ship, in what would later be called the colony of Virginia. Now, this year of 2019 was known as the year of return, as many African Americans were reconnecting to Africa, especially West Africa, and traveling to Ghana and other West African countries. When we discuss the transatlantic slave trade, we have to first understand that African people are the original people of North, Central, and South America and have been in the land we call the United States of America at least 51,700 years ago. Now, last week when we spoke with Tony Browder, author of Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization, and he's also the author of Egypt on the Potomac and Finding Karakamoon, he talked about the Olmecs and Olmec culture as well. And we talked about the African origins, the African root of Olmec culture coming from ancient Kemet. We've interviewed Dr. David Imhotep numerous times, and these are actual slides from the class, by the way. I put together the whole curriculum. There's about 80 to 100 articles that we reference in this class. There's 7 books that we use as reference. You don't have to buy any of the books. We show you excerpts of the book on the screen, okay? But Dr. David Imhotep's book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, it came out in 2011. On page 14 of his book, he deals with a discovery made in Allendale County, South Carolina in 2004 by Dr. Albert Goodyear. Evidence of a African presence 51,700 years ago in Allendale County, South Carolina. Okay. And people are asking for my email address. You can email me right through the website. Go to theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and you can email me right through the website. Also, when we have the website up here on the screen, and then also you can email me as well at ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Okay. All right. Now, they found Dr. Albert Goodyear is an archaeologist at the University of South Carolina. They found 13 different types of evidence to thoroughly document an African presence in the land that we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. Okay, they found 13 different types of evidence fairly documenting an African presence in this country that we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Okay, so it's totally ridiculous for people to think, especially for African Americans to think, that African people first came to this land as slaves, conquered and shackled by Europeans. Okay. That's a total misunderstanding of history. Now, this is a picture of Dr. Albert Goodyear. He's a white archaeologist. This is an article from ScienceDaily.com that came out in November 18th, 2004. The article was about 19 years old. It's still at ScienceDaily.com. You can go back and read it. It's called New Evidence Puts Man in North America 50,000 Years Ago. New evidence puts man in North America 50,000 years ago. Here's a summary of what the article says. Now, this is not my summary. This is the summary coming from ScienceDaily.com. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old. Indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. Okay, so we have to ask the question: well, who were these humans? Okay, who was on Earth 50,000 years ago, 51,000 years ago? Okay, these were the Khoisan. The Khoisan have the oldest DNA on the planet. They're the ancestors to the Ainu and the Twa. They go all around the world. And they were also here in the land we call the United States of America. Now, in October 2012, genetic study published in Science magazine found that the Khoisan in Southern Africa, are the oldest ethnic group of modern humans, with their ancestral line originating about 100,000 years ago. The Khoisan, formerly called by the derogatory term Bushmen, are genetically unique, and no other currently known population had separated so early from our common modern human ancestor, according to the report. Now, here are a couple of Khoisan women. Now, the Khoisan are the short-statured Africans, okay? The Khoisan live mainly in southern Africa in territories spanning Botswana, Namibia, Angola, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. They are largely divided into two groups: hunters and gatherers, known as the Sans people, and keepers of the livestock, known as the Khoikhoi people. The Khoisan languages include the distinctive click sounds, that are not found in the languages of their neighbors. Okay, AtlantaBlackStar.com has a good article entitled 5 Ethnic Groups That Prove the First Humans Were Black. Okay, and some of you have seen the interview from April 17, 2014, where I interviewed my friend Renoko Rashidi, and we were talking about Chevalier, Joseph Boulogne, and the Moors and the Black Madonnas in Europe. And we're rebroadcasting that interview as well, because the movie Chevalier is out that talks about Joseph Boulogne, who is also known as the Black Mozart. Okay, and he was born in Guadeloupe. He was half French and half African. But the interview I did in that interview with Renoko Rashidi, he talks about articles that he was writing for Atlanta